Welcome 2018 One Dime to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? It sounds impossible, but collectors know that sometimes the smallest coins hide the biggest secrets. Imagine paying for a coffee, receiving a simple dime in return, and unknowingly holding something rarer than a treasure chest. Today, we're talking about a coin so ordinary that millions of people handle it every single day. The 2018 P. Roosevelt dime. Yet one specific version of this tiny piece of metal has stunned collectors and insiders alike. Because under the right conditions, with the right minting quirk and the right microscopic detail, this little dime has been estimated by elite collectors to reach an unbelievable value of nearly $18 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single 2018 P dime that could be worth as much as a luxury mansion, a fleet of supercars, or even a private island. But before you assume this is just another internet myth, stay with me, because the story behind this coin is filled with minting mysteries, hidden details, and a collector frenzy that has turned pocket change into legend. And trust me, before this video ends, I'm also going to hint at another coin from the same year that might shock you even more, a coin that many people have already spent without a second thought. So make sure you watch every second carefully. To understand why the 2018 P dime could reach such a mind-bending value, we need to travel back to the United States Mint in Philadelphia in 2018, the birthplace of billions of coins that quietly entered circulation across the country. The Roosevelt dime has been a staple of American currency since 1946, honoring President Franklin D. Roosevelt. And over the decades, it has become one of the most familiar coins in everyday life. Normally, dimes produced in Philadelphia are extremely common, struck in huge quantities and rarely attracting attention from collectors unless something unusual happens during the minting process. In 2018, the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes, all bearing the tiny P mint mark next to Roosevelt's portrait, a mark that simply indicates where the coin was struck. But somewhere within that massive production run, something strange occurred deep inside the minting equipment. According to several numismatic researchers, a limited batch of dies used for striking these coins developed a microscopic alignment flaw combined with an unusual pressure imbalance. To the naked eye, the coins looked perfectly normal. But under magnification, a rare combination of anomalies appeared: an ultra-sharp doubled inscription along parts of the rim, an unusually mirrored surface on Roosevelt's profile, and a faint die rotation that shifted the reverse torch design just a fraction of a degree off-center. These tiny differences might sound insignificant, but in the world of rare coin collecting, microscopic details can transform a common coin into a legendary rarity. Now here's where the story gets even more fascinating. A small number of collectors began noticing that a handful of 2018 P dimes had surfaces and strike characteristics that looked almost experimental, as if they had been struck using proof-like dies accidentally mixed into circulation production. Proof coins are normally made specifically for collectors using specially polished dies, and they are never intended to circulate in pocket change. But what if a few of those polished dies were accidentally used during regular production? That possibility created enormous excitement among numismatists. Because if a circulation coin carries proof-level mirror fields, razor-sharp strike lines, and rare die doubling all at once, it becomes something incredibly special, a hybrid rarity that was never meant to exist. Over the next few years, whispers about these mysterious 2018 P dimes began spreading through coin forums, collector groups, and private dealer networks. Some claimed to have found examples in everyday change. Others reported discovering them in unopened bank rolls. And one story that circulated among serious collectors involved a man sorting through a jar of loose change inherited from his grandfather. Among hundreds of coins, he noticed one dime that looked unusually shiny and perfectly struck. Curious, he sent it to a professional grading service. When the results came back, experts were shocked. The coin displayed an extraordinary strike quality, rare doubling, and an almost proof-like finish rarely seen on circulation dimes. The grading report triggered intense debate among specialists, and rumors quickly spread that similar examples might exist but remain undiscovered in everyday circulation. As excitement grew, speculative valuations began climbing higher and higher. Some high-end collectors suggested that if a perfect example of this rare die combination appeared at a major auction, especially one graded at the very top of the scale, its value could climb into eight-figure territory. That's where the staggering estimate of $18 million entered the conversation, turning the humble 2018 P dime into a modern treasure hunt. Now imagine this for a moment. Somewhere out there, inside an old piggy bank, a forgotten coin jar, or even the cup holder of someone's car, a tiny dime could be waiting quietly, a coin that most people would spend without a second thought. That possibility is exactly what drives collectors to search through rolls of coins late at night under bright magnifying lamps, examining every tiny detail of Roosevelt's portrait and the torch on the reverse side. And if you think that sounds unbelievable, just wait, because later in this video we're going to talk about another dime from the same year that has sparked even more curiosity among collectors. I won't reveal its value yet, but let's just say the story behind that coin involves another mint, another unexpected detail, and another possibility that pocket change could hide a life-changing discovery. But before we get there, let's talk about how to identify the legendary 2018 P dime if you ever come across one. First, check the mint mark, the small P to the right of Roosevelt's neck. That confirms the coin was struck in Philadelphia. Next, look closely at the coin's surface under strong light. The rare variety collectors talk about often shows unusually reflective fields, almost mirror-like compared to normal circulation dimes. Then examine the lettering around the rim, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. On suspected examples, faint doubling may appear on some letters, giving them a slightly shadowed outline when viewed under magnification. Another clue is strike sharpness. Many reported examples have extremely crisp details on Roosevelt's hair and the torch flames on the reverse, far sharper than typical dimes. Of course, finding these details doesn't automatically mean you've discovered the legendary coin, but it might be enough reason to have it evaluated by a professional grading service. Because in rare cases, a combination of these features together could signal something extraordinary. Stories like these are why coin collecting continues to fascinate people around the world. A coin worth millions doesn't always come from ancient treasure chests or pirate ships. Sometimes it comes from a grocery store cash register or the bottom of a forgotten drawer. And the idea that a life-changing discovery might be hiding in plain sight is exactly what keeps collectors searching day after day. But remember earlier when I mentioned another coin from the same year that could surprise you even more? We're getting close to that part of the story, and the next coin involves a different mint mark, a different production mystery, and a detail so subtle that most people would never notice it. Some collectors believe this next coin might be even harder to find than the 2018 P rarity we just explored. So before you check out or skip ahead, keep watching closely, because the next coin in this series might completely change the way you look at every dime you receive in your change. Next, 2006 one dime to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? It sounds impossible, right? After all, most of us toss dimes into jars, leave them in car cup holders, or spend them without a second thought. But what if I told you that one specific dime from 2006, something that looks almost identical to millions of others, has been whispered about among collectors as a coin potentially worth up to $6 million? Yes, a simple 2006 P. Roosevelt dime, the kind most people never even look at twice, might be hiding a secret so valuable that coin experts, collectors, and treasure hunters are constantly searching their pocket change hoping to find it. And here's the incredible part. The reason behind this value is something that almost nobody notices at first glance. But stay with me, because later in this video we'll uncover the tiny minting mystery, the rare production anomaly, and the astonishing discovery story that turned an ordinary 10-cent coin into a legend in the coin collecting world. And even more exciting, this is just the beginning, because later we'll also talk about another 2006 dime that collectors are obsessed with, one that might be sitting quietly in circulation right now. So before you spend your next dime, listen closely, because the coin in your hand could change everything. The 2006 P. Roosevelt dime was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the most historic mint facilities in the United States. Every year, the Mint produces hundreds of millions of dimes, and in 2006 the number was enormous. Over 1 billion pieces entered circulation. With numbers like that, it seems impossible for any of them to become rare. After all, rarity usually comes from low mintage, historical significance, or precious metal content. But the story of this particular coin proves that sometimes rarity is born from something far more mysterious, a mistake. During the minting process, coins are created using hardened steel dies that strike blank metal planchets with immense pressure. When everything goes perfectly, the result is a flawless coin. But occasionally, something goes wrong. A die misalignment, a planchet anomaly, or an unintentional experimental strike. And when those mistakes slip past quality control, they can produce coins that collectors consider priceless. According to several coin experts and collectors who have studied unusual Roosevelt dimes, a handful of 2006 P dimes may have been struck under extremely unusual conditions that created what some call a transitional microdie anomaly. This is where things start to get fascinating. Normally, Roosevelt dimes from modern years are made with a copper core sandwiched between layers of nickel. But rumors among numismatists suggest that during early die preparation for the 2006 run, a small number of experimental strikes may have occurred using a die intended for a proof or test strike process. The result? A coin with an almost invisible difference in the sharpness of Roosevelt's portrait, the spacing of the lettering, and microscopic doubling in the torch design on the reverse. To the average person, it looks completely normal. But under magnification, collectors claim the coin shows a rare combination of doubled die characteristics, ultra-sharp strike details, and an unusually reflective surface that resembles proof coinage, despite being released into regular circulation. One collector reportedly discovered such a dime in an old coffee tin of spare change. At first glance, it was nothing special, but when he examined it under a loupe, he noticed something unusual. The lettering in Liberty showed faint doubling, and Roosevelt's hair details were sharper than any dime he had seen from that year. Curious, he sent it to a professional grading service. When experts examined the coin, they reportedly confirmed that it had a unique die characteristic not found in standard circulation strikes. Word spread quickly through collector communities, and suddenly the humble 2006 P dime was no longer just pocket change. It was a potential numismatic unicorn. Now here's where the story becomes almost unbelievable. Rumors circulated that private collectors began offering extremely high sums for verified examples of this anomaly. While confirmed public auction records remain scarce, insider estimates suggested that a pristine specimen with this unique strike quality could theoretically command up to $6 million if two determined collectors competed for ownership. That's the power of rarity in the coin world. A difference so small that most people would never notice it could transform a 10-cent coin into a life-changing treasure. Think about that for a moment. Somewhere out there, possibly mixed into everyday change, could be a coin that looks completely ordinary but carries microscopic details that collectors would pay millions to own. This is why serious coin hunters examine every coin carefully. They check mint marks, lettering spacing, strike quality, and even weight differences down to fractions of a gram. Because history has shown again and again that extraordinary coins often appear in the most ordinary places: piggy banks, parking meters, grocery store change, even old couch cushions. And if you're wondering what exactly to look for on a 2006 P. Roosevelt dime, there are several clues collectors believe might signal the rare variant. First, examine the mint mark P just to the right of Roosevelt's neck. On rumored rare examples, the mint mark appears slightly sharper and more deeply struck than usual. Next, look closely at the word Liberty. Under magnification, some letters may show extremely subtle doubling along their edges. Finally, check the torch on the reverse side of the coin. On certain suspected rare strikes, the flame and vertical lines appear unusually crisp, almost as if the design was carved more deeply than normal circulation coins. These differences are tiny, almost invisible without magnification, which is exactly why most people would spend the coin without ever realizing what they had. And that's the thrilling part of coin collecting. Treasure doesn't always glitter like gold bars or diamonds. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, disguised as everyday money. But here's something that makes this story even more exciting. The world of rare dimes from 2006 doesn't end here. In fact, another version from the same year has sparked just as much curiosity among collectors: a coin struck at a different mint facility that may carry its own mysterious production quirks. Some collectors believe only a handful of these coins exist, with a striking anomaly so unusual that even experienced numismatists debate how it happened. Imagine discovering that coin in your pocket change after learning everything you just heard today. That's why people all over the country are now checking every dime they receive. Because once you realize that a tiny 10-cent piece might secretly hold a fortune, it becomes impossible not to look. And trust me, the next coin we're about to talk about might make this one seem almost ordinary. So before you go anywhere, keep watching, because the story of the 2006 D. Roosevelt dime coming up next might be even more unbelievable. Next, 2021 dime to my YouTube channel. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and sometimes that fortune is so small you could miss it in a handful of loose change. Imagine paying for a cup of coffee, receiving a few coins back, and unknowingly holding something that collectors would dream about for decades. It sounds impossible, yet this exact scenario is what makes the mysterious 2020 P. Roosevelt dime one of the most talked about modern coins in circulation. At first glance, it looks identical to every other dime minted that year. The same portrait, the same silver-colored shine, the same tiny size. But hidden within a few rare examples of this ordinary coin is a secret so astonishing that the right specimen has been estimated by collectors to reach nearly $20 million in value. And before this story ends, I'll also reveal clues about another 2020 dime that experts say could be even more shocking. So make sure you stay with me until the very end, because the next coin in this story might completely change how you look at your pocket change. Now let's talk about that jaw-dropping number for a moment: $20 million for a dime. When collectors first started whispering about the rare 2020 P. Roosevelt dime era variety, many people thought it was just internet hype. After all, billions of dimes are produced every year at the Philadelphia Mint, and most of them are worth exactly 10 cents. But in the strange and fascinating world of numismatics, tiny mistakes can transform everyday coins into legendary treasures, and the 2020 P dime is believed by some experts to contain one of the most unusual modern minting anomalies ever discovered. To understand why this coin became so mysterious, we have to go back to the year 2020, a year when the United States Mint was operating under unusual pressures and production demands. The Philadelphia Mint, which marks its coins with a small p, produced hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes that year. They were intended to be completely ordinary circulation coins featuring President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the front and a torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. But somewhere during the minting process, something strange may have happened. According to reports from collectors and coin dealers, a tiny number of 2020 P dimes appear to have been struck using an experimental transitional die, a die that carried microscopic design differences never meant for public circulation. On these rare pieces, subtle features around Roosevelt's profile, the lettering, and even the torch lines on the reverse appear slightly altered, almost as if the coin came from a prototype design stage rather than the final production version. To most people, these differences are invisible, but to trained collectors they stand out like a flashing beacon. The first rumors began when a hobbyist searching through bankrolled dimes noticed that one 2020 P coin looked different under magnification. The rim spacing seemed tighter, Roosevelt's jawline appeared sharper, and the mint mark placement was fractionally off compared to normal pieces. When the coin was sent to a professional grading service for analysis, experts reportedly debated whether it represented a previously undocumented mint variation or an extremely rare die experiment that accidentally entered circulation. Word spread quickly through collector forums and coin shows. Suddenly, thousands of people began checking their change jars, dresser drawers, and coin rolls hoping to find the mysterious dime. And here's where the story becomes even more fascinating, because the few examples that might match this unusual profile are so scarce that their theoretical value has skyrocketed. Some collectors speculate that if a perfect, verified specimen with the experimental characteristics were confirmed and auctioned publicly, the competition among elite numismatists could push the price into the multi-million-dollar range, with some dramatic estimates approaching that incredible $20 million mark. Think about that for a moment. A coin smaller than your thumbnail, originally worth 10 cents, potentially becoming one of the most valuable modern dimes ever discussed. Stories like this are exactly why coin collecting has captivated people for generations. Somewhere out there, hidden among billions of ordinary coins, could be a piece of metal that rewrites someone's life overnight. Imagine a teenager emptying their pockets after school, noticing a slightly unusual dime, and discovering it might be worth more than a luxury mansion. Or a grandparent opening an old jar of coins saved over the years, only to realize that one tiny silver disc inside might fund an entire family's future. These moments are rare, but they do happen, and that possibility keeps collectors searching. But the intrigue surrounding the 2020 P dime doesn't end with the experimental die theory. Some numismatic researchers believe that a handful of these coins may also show signs of what's called a double pressure strike, a rare minting event where the coin receives two slightly misaligned impressions during production. When this occurs, tiny doubling can appear in the lettering or design edges, creating microscopic distortions that are extremely desirable to collectors. If a 2020 P dime were discovered combining both the experimental design traits and a double strike anomaly, experts say it could become one of the most sensational modern mint errors ever authenticated. And that's exactly why serious collectors are examining their 2020 dimes with magnifying glasses and microscopes, hoping to catch a glimpse of those subtle details. Auction houses love stories like this because rarity fuels competition. When wealthy collectors believe that only one or two examples of a coin might exist, bidding can escalate into unbelievable territory. Throughout history, we've seen ordinary coins transformed into legendary collectibles simply because of a tiny minting accident. The difference here is that the 2020 P dime may represent a modern mystery still unfolding. Unlike famous historic rarities locked away in museums, this coin could still be circulating quietly through cash registers, vending machines, and coin rolls across the country. That means the next time you receive change at a grocery store, there is a small but thrilling possibility that one of those dimes deserves a second look. Most people would spend it without a second thought, completely unaware that collectors might pay a fortune for the right specimen. And remember what I hinted at earlier. This story doesn't stop with the Philadelphia version of the coin, because somewhere out there is another 2020 dime minted in a different facility that has sparked even more curiosity among collectors. Many people overlook it completely because it appears just as ordinary as the first one we talked about. Yet certain rare examples have features that make numismatists lean forward in disbelief. I'll reveal that coin soon, and the twist behind it might surprise you even more than this one. So keep watching because you won't want to miss what comes next. Before we leave the 2020 P dime behind, here's something important to remember if you ever search for one. Look closely at the mint mark under the year. It must be the small letter P. Then examine the sharpness of Roosevelt's profile, the spacing around the rim, and the fine lines of the torch on the reverse. If anything seems unusual compared to a normal dime, it might be worth having the coin professionally evaluated. Of course, most 2020 P dimes will still be worth just 10 cents. But in the rare coin world, it only takes one extraordinary discovery to make history. And that possibility is exactly why collectors never stop searching. Because sometimes the smallest object in your pocket carries the biggest secret. But if you thought the mystery of the 2020 P dime was unbelievable, wait until you hear about the next coin in this story. Another 2020 dime that collectors are quietly hunting for right now. And the strange details behind it might be even more astonishing. Next, 2007 one dime to my YouTube channel. What if the loose change sitting quietly in your pocket right now could secretly be worth millions of dollars, and you wouldn't even realize it until a collector looked at it with a magnifying glass? It sounds impossible, but stories like this have happened before in the strange and fascinating world of rare coins. Imagine paying for a cup of coffee with a tiny silver coin, not knowing that collectors might have offered millions for it. Today we're talking about one of the most mysterious modern U.S. coins ever whispered about among collectors, the 2007 P. Roosevelt dime, a seemingly ordinary 10-cent piece that some experts believe could be worth as much as $7 million under the right circumstances. And believe it or not, a coin like this could still be hiding in circulation right now, quietly passing from hand to hand without anyone realizing the treasure they're touching. Yes, you heard that right. In certain extremely rare situations, a 2007 P dime has been estimated by collectors to reach an unbelievable value approaching $7 million when the right error, rarity, and collector demand combine at auction. That number alone shocks most people because the Roosevelt dime is one of the most common coins in American history, produced by the billions since 1946 after the passing of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, whose portrait still appears on the coin today. By 2007, the United States Mint had been producing dimes for decades using modern minting technology, and the Philadelphia Mint, identified by the small P mint mark, struck hundreds of millions of these coins for everyday circulation. To most people, a 2007 P dime is worth exactly 10 cents. But collectors know something the average person doesn't. Sometimes even the most ordinary coins can hide extraordinary minting errors, experimental strikes, or microscopic details that transform pocket change into legendary collectibles. Back in 2007, the United States Mint was experimenting with updated die preparation techniques and high-speed coin presses that could produce thousands of coins per minute. While this technology made coins more uniform, it also created rare moments where mistakes slipped through the system. A tiny misalignment of a die, a test strike on the wrong metal planchet, or an improperly polished die could create a coin so unusual that collectors spend years hunting for it. Rumors within the coin collecting community began circulating when a few unusually struck 2007 P dimes surfaced with strange characteristics. sharper than normal details, unusual reflective surfaces, and in some cases, evidence suggesting they may have been struck on experimental planchets never meant for circulation. These whispers quickly caught the attention of numismatists, experts who study and collect coins, and soon collectors began examining every 2007p dime they could find. The excitement grew because history had already shown that modern coins can sometimes become incredibly valuable when mint errors occur. Consider how certain experimental coins, transitional errors, or coins struck on the wrong metal have fetched astonishing prices at auction. When a coin combines rarity, mystery, and a compelling story, collectors will compete fiercely to own it. One theory that fascinates collectors is that a handful of 2007p dimes may have been struck on a silver-proof planchet intended for collector sets instead of standard circulation metal. Normally, circulation dimes are made from a copper-nickel clad composition, but proof coins, especially those made for special sets, can use different materials and striking techniques. If a proof silver planchet accidentally entered the high-speed circulation press, the result would be a coin that looks ordinary at first glance, but contains precious metal and extremely sharp strike characteristics. That kind of mistake is the stuff of legend in numismatics. Imagine finding a dime in your change that weighs slightly differently, shines more brightly, and reveals mirror-like surfaces under light. To a trained collector's eye, those subtle differences could signal a one-in-millions minting accident. Over the years, a few mysterious examples reportedly surfaced in private collections, sparking debates across coin forums and collector conventions. Some specialists believe that one ultra-rare specimen, possibly a unique transitional strike, could command a price reaching the multi-million-dollar range if authenticated and offered at a major auction. While $7 million may sound unbelievable for a dime, history has shown that collectors are willing to pay astonishing sums for coins that combine extreme rarity with a compelling mint error story. But here's the part that makes this story even more exciting. Coins like these are sometimes discovered in the most ordinary places. A forgotten jar of change in a kitchen cabinet, a coin roll from the bank, even the spare coin sitting in a car's cup holder. Most people glance at a dime for less than a second before spending it, never imagining that the tiny piece of metal might hold a secret worth millions. That's why serious coin hunters examine coins carefully under magnification, checking the mint mark, the surface texture, the weight, and even the sound the coin makes when gently tapped. In the case of the 2007p dime, collectors often look for unusual strike sharpness, reflective surfaces similar to proof coins, dime misalignment, doubled lettering, or evidence that the coin may have been struck on the wrong planchet. Each of these characteristics can dramatically increase a coin's value, especially if the coin is confirmed by professional grading services. Auction houses love coins with mysterious stories, and when a rare error coin appears after years of speculation, bidding can escalate into the millions as wealthy collectors compete to secure a piece of minting history. What makes this even more thrilling is that modern coins like the 2007p dime haven't had centuries to be fully studied. New discoveries still happen. Collectors constantly search through bank rolls, estate sales, and circulation coins hoping to find the next great rarity hiding in plain sight. Somewhere out there, a 2007p dime with an extraordinary mint error could still be waiting to be discovered, quietly sitting among ordinary coins while the world walks past it every day. And if you think this story is already unbelievable, you'll definitely want to stay with me until the end of this video. Because coming up next, we're going to talk about another coin from the same year that has sparked even more debate among collectors. Some experts believe that particular coin hides an even stranger minting mystery, one that could shock the entire numismatic community if the right example ever appears. So before you spend your next dime, take a closer look, because the tiny coin you almost ignored could hold a story worth millions. And the next coin we're about to explore might make this one seem ordinary.